All right, so I figured I would do this video really quick and get it out there because people are gonna want to know my thoughts on this stuff pretty quickly. So two things in this video. One, first skate with these, the game-changing skate that everyone's talking about. And two, we are wearing a Warrior G5 and a Warrior G6. And I wanted to compare the two pads next to each other. And specifically, I took the side plate off of the G6 pad to make it a more one-to-one comparison, so we can kind of talk about sliding and everything. Then, so I can do like a full review and I can use like some of the stuff that I got from this. So first of all, the Warrior pads and kind of overall on it. One, in this video, you can totally see the size difference. I went with a 36 plus 1 versus a 35 plus 1.5 on the G5s because I would land at the top of the G5 all the time, and the only way for me to land in the middle, I had to strap them and pull them up, and I hated the thigh rise kind of getting in the way, and I always hated the feeling of it sliding up and down my leg. So I went with 36, and it feels so much better. It feels so much more like the pad doesn't move up and down as much, and it's great. With that said, the pad definitely felt like it slid on this, and the toe straps that I was using on the G6, I guess were too tight for what this is. I don't know. I have to take a look at the true skates compared to this, because with my trues, I have zero issues in the RVH and my foot feels great with these G6. With this, my foot, ankle specifically, hurt in the RVH quite a lot. So when in the video, you can see my right skate, the toe isn't like down as much as it is on my left. It's not as natural. It's being held up. And I think that's just because this strap isn't loose enough for these skates. It's totally fine for my true skates, but for this one, I guess just where this holder is, it needs to be loosened for like this hole specifically. The other thing I noticed is it really felt like my pad slid down these on a lot more than it did on the G5, but it also felt like it slid down compared to my true. So when I wear the trues, everything feels really comfortable. With this one, it definitely felt like my toe was coming down a bit. Now that might just be because that toe strap was too tight, and that was kind of forcing it down and not letting it sit up high enough. But it definitely felt weird, and it wasn't just like the skate hinge stuff feeling weird. It was the pad was kind of slipping down it. So I gotta figure out what's going on with that, and I'll kind of tinker with that a little bit. For the pads themselves, they're so different. It's basically like these were obviously they're two different pads, but it's not like an evolution of the pad. It honestly feels like a totally different pad. For me, that's, I think, a great thing because one, the G6 is way stiffer, which is what I prefer, and the core is stiffer too, and it's gonna last longer and everything like that. People who like softer pads might like the G5 more, but you still can get a softer option with these, and obviously mine are as stiff as possible because that's my preference. So they really do play totally different from each other in that regards. Sliding on them it's basically the same. I couldn't tell a difference whatsoever without that slide plate. It should be the same. They're using the same materials, generally the same design, slightly less of that slide, air glide stuff on it, the G6 compared to G5, but it doesn't make a big difference anyway, or any difference at all. So sliding was basically the same, and I'm not surprised at that. It's all about the materials, and the materials are the same. The other part I noticed, and I put it in a clip specifically on here, is I had rotation issues with the G5 where you land on the face of the pad over and over again. And I've heard this from multiple people. It's only really happened to me ever in G5 pads. G6, totally gone. And the way that they did the knee blocks, and I'll talk about this when I do the review, and like the inner channel is slightly different than what was on the G5. And you can see the pad flip over on the G5 on here, and I land on the knee. And it never happens on the G6 unless I like purposely dive on the knee or like I'm flopping type thing. Where the G5, it would happen just me making semi-desperate saves, but not diving and everything. So a huge improvement on the G6 in that regards. I think it's kind of interesting when you look at you can really see the calf wraps between the G6 and the 5. The 5 is really soft in a traditional type thing. The G6 is really stiff. So you can really see the difference between how they wrap and everything. I don't know which one is better. It's like, I get what they did with the G6, and I'll talk about that again in the full review, but I kind of miss how well that 5 wraps around everything and how soft it is compared to the 6, but it's not a huge deal or anything, and it's kind of just a little bit of a nitpick. Now on to the skates, the game-changing skates. So I'm actually wearing the other one of these right now, and I was wearing this one before I did this video because my feet absolutely killed in these skates wearing them, and which is really disappointing because I bought them because they were pretty comfortable when I did them in store. Brought them out to this, and my feet just absolutely killed. I also only bought these because I have slight pain in my True skates, which is right here. That's not true. I also bought these because I wanted to actually see if they're game changing like everyone says they are, because I don't really believe in marketing stuff. I need proof for it. And so I thought, okay, I'll bite the bullet here and I'll see how this actually works. And I have issues with my True skates on certain pads. I think the Warrior G6s are one of them, but the Vaughn SLRs are one of them specifically, where right here basically, and this is my right skate, so I should say right here basically, when I'm in my stance, my ankles are kind of like this and my leg kind of goes up like this, and this digs into my foot. And I can't really expand that part on the True, because if I do, I'll have like no ankle wrap at all and it'll just be too loose. So I want that to be there, but when I'm in my stance with certain pads, because the leg channel is so open there, the pads aren't like against my leg, keeping it in a certain direction, that my ankle kind of goes on an angle and it causes a ton of discomfort. If I'm playing 3 times a night, which is gonna happen a few times this year, and I'm should be on the ice for 5 times a week as a goalie, I need them to not be killing me from my skates. So that's another reason why I went into these, because they were a lot more comfortable for that position. Like, it was more comfortable here too. I tried to specifically make that an issue. I could feel a little bit, but it wasn't nearly as bad as what my Trues are. Now, with that said, I kind of talked about this on my post, where this is a size 9. I normally wear an 8.5 goalie skate. And in my True Player custom skates, they're basically an 8, because that's like the pro fit, where my toes are right against the box, and then when you like bend your knees, it pulls back a little bit and they fit perfectly when you're skating. Goalie skates, you obviously want a little bit of room in the toes so your toes aren't jammed there, and pucks, you have a bit of a gap, right? Bauer says this skate specifically, this is a 9, will fit a 9 to a 9.5, and I don't understand how any of these skates are fitting 0.5 above what they say they are. I tried on an 8, my toes were crunched, and like I said, 8 is supposed to fit to an 8 to an 8.5. I fit a normal 8.5 player skate, and my toes were absolutely destroyed in them. No way I can wear those. If I took a puck to that too, it would make it way worse. And that was using the sleeve and everything you're supposed to do to bake this. So I went to a 9, and my toes are still against the tips, and it's not a length issue in terms of the skate, it's how the skate fits. And this is obviously going to be some processing pains of trying to figure out how to really get this thing dialed in, because it's not like a normal skate. So first of all, here's a few things I noticed right away. Width wise, is people are saying this will fit up to a 4E, and I really question that. I'm like maybe a triple E. I'm a double E to maybe a triple E, and this thing is tight, and I can feel a ton of discomfort up here because of how snug this is. This is a 9, remember, I can wear an 8. So I question that 4E a lot. Now, the other thing is, I did use those foam pads to push them out, but they worked a little bit. I just don't see how this can expand that much without like really pushing these out, and I'm not going to stick this in a skate stretcher to see the distance this goes. Someone else can do that. Now, the other thing I noticed is, because of the way that these lacing things work, the length feels worse than it really is. So my toes were up against it and it was uncomfortable, but the reason being is there's basically no heel lock. So normally when you tie skates, you can tie them right here that stop the front of your skate, or like that part of your foot, from sliding any further forward. But here, that's not the case. The only lock place is here and here. This I can't do tight at all because of the width issues I have. So this has to be, and depth. I do have a decently tall foot right here too. So this has to be as loose as possible, and it's basically on the 1, and then that's it. And it's just so this piece doesn't come off. If I do any tighter, it totally kills my feet. So the other thing is, this piece right here has to be as physically tight as possible to lock your heel in place. And unfortunately yesterday in this skate, I didn't get that done. And I wasn't totally sure how to do it, and I didn't adjust this yet. So this was on the small sizing it comes with. And again, I'll talk about this on the review. I'm gonna talk about this really quick. And basically, this thing is such a pain to do up when you're actually like wearing goalie pants and stuff. Like when you're in store and stuff, you can have someone push on this too, and it's easier. But for me, it was tough, and especially because I didn't extend this. So this is currently in its most like extended state. You can see where stock, it's back more, so it only goes the length of this, and it was almost impossible to get on there. So what I found was I could only really get it to the second tightness, and it felt tight comparatively to other things. I don't tie my top laces like super tight on my hockey skates. They're snug, but they're not like cranked because I don't need to. They're kind of custom. They all kind of fit my foot pretty good. This, you have to crank this because there's no thing here holding your foot from sliding forward. This is the only thing holding it from sliding forward. So this wasn't tight enough when I was using this. So it really caused my feet to kind of slide forward, toes in here. And then the other issue, the big issue, is arch is in the totally wrong spot. And then this part too. So like my forefoot, which is wider, should be sitting right here. But like when your foot's sliding forward, it moves in the wrong spot. Same with the arches. So I had arch pain with this a lot, and I never have arch support pain ever. Like any skate I've ever worn, I've never had arch issues. I don't have to wear super feet, don't have to wear any of that. I wear super feet in a pair of skates, but only to pull my toes back. So I don't actually need it for the arch support. Here, my arches were killing me. And the reason being, because normally like your arch sits wherever this pocket is, but my foot was sliding forward. So my arch, which would normally be like right here, was like now here, which isn't where it's supposed to be. And the pressure sucked. It was very uncomfortable. So making this change and now basically learning how you have to like step this. So once it's on, you basically just walk it, and you can walk it to be tighter and tighter, and it's easier. And the tight ankle feels definitely better. Obviously I'm sitting down, not playing hockey, but sitting down here with this tight, it feels a lot better, and it definitely is fixing kind of this. This is still tight and snug and might need to be like rebaked to really push this out a little bit more. But the arch is the big thing that's being fixed by this, so it's something people are gonna have to watch for. Now the hinge, you feel it all the time. You feel it all the time specifically, and it basically feels like it pushes you way like this. Now I was using a true two-piece, and the original true two-piece was more raked. The newest one is slightly flatter. CCMs are way flatter, but the newest true is slightly flatter than the old one. And then I had them profiled to be more like on my toes. This thing, now one, their holder is really aggressive, so that helps it too. But this forward flex piece just makes me feel like my whole body's like over my toes. And it's not a bad thing. You feel like you're more aggressive and kind of attacking things, but it's obviously a personal preference thing. Like if you love CCM skates and how flat they are, or a true one piece, I have a hard time believing you going into this and flecting forward is going to be comfortable to you. Now, can you feel it for pushing off? Yes, in certain scenarios, but I have to use this more and more. This was just kind of a slower shinny, so I got to use this in games a lot to really feel how it's working. You absolutely notice this when you're doing like leg extensions to turn. So if I'm like facing this way and the puck is over there and I step my leg out this way to push off towards the post, you absolutely feel this all the time. Because normally when you do that, I'm more or less like right here on my skate, and I push off with that. With this, when the skate goes to step out with this flex, the whole blade is on the ice when you make that push, and you push that way. So you definitely feel it in that sense. But everywhere else, it was a lot less, like I didn't notice it as much. And there's a few times where I noticed I didn't want the forward flex. So I'd go to make a move with my skate, and I would expect to like kind of push off and just in my normal stance, and the forward flex kind of got me off of where I wanted to be, and it felt too much movement. So we're gonna have to see if that's like something I just get used to and something that I can manage and adjust to, or if it's something where some goalies just don't like it. Like I know Ottinger doesn't use these and wants stiffer skates. So I can totally see that being 100% thing. The other thing I want to say really quickly though is they say this has like 22 degrees of range of motion. I checked this against my true skates when I was at the store, and the range I got extra was like 4 degrees. So yeah, it's there, but it's not like as massive as what people kind of say it is. But the difference is there's also no resistance that whole way. So when you do have a tongue and that tongue is getting in the way, you're obviously getting resistance when you're moving. But when you're like with this, because there's no resistance anywhere. But with that said, the resistance isn't like something you totally fight against when you're playing. The tongue moves and your body moves and you have weight behind it, so it's not like as big as a deal. But a lot more will go into this review. This isn't really a review, it's me like one skate with it. But I'll talk about this a lot more. I'll get it on the ice a lot more, because I had 5 teams this year. Supposedly right now, we'll see how it works out. So we'll have a lot of usage of this and see how it plays and how I like it and everything. But pain is a thing that I have to deal with for a little bit. But yeah, we'll talk about it more. So if you're buying hockey equipment and you want to support the channel, check out the links in the description. In the US, check out links to Pure Hockey. In Canada, check out links to Hockey Supremacy. If you click those links and make a purchase, I get a kickback from the sale. So anything that comes back from that comes right back into the channel, so I keep making more content and doing like real reviews and stuff. I got buy gear to do a lot of the tests for it, so that costs money and it would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel without buying anything, check out links in the description to Patreon, buy me a coffee. Everything through there comes again back into the channel, so I keep making more content and doing real reviews.
Y'all ready for this?
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.